ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. It's Thursday, August 5th, and we're together in the SikhNet office. And we've been having fun doing these live broadcasts on Facebook. And, this week we picked today to do it because today is the 4th anniversary of the shootings at the Oak Creek Gurdwara in Wisconsin, which was August 2012. And, it's interesting that it made a change in the psyche of the United States and in people's awareness. And there are certain key events like, the shooting of Balbir Singh and the massacre at Oak Creek that made us think deeply about, who we are and how people relate to us and how we respond to people who are haters. So I remember when I heard the news about Oak Creek, I was actually in Kuala Lumpur, and I was at somebody's house and they had the television on, and the sound was off, but I saw the scroll on the bottom of the screen, and we turned it on and listened. And there was this sense of disbelief. I mean, not just that I was halfway around the world, but that, oh my God, is this really happening? So those of you who are watching our broadcast today, I'm sitting here and wondering, where were you when you heard the news? And, what were your thoughts and response to it? And, we've had 4 years here, and as this thinking about this came back to us all this week, we started having discussions amongst ourselves about it, and we thought we would just go online and share those discussions with you. So everybody's here on the SikhNet team. Ong Kaar Kaur is sitting on my right, and Gurujot Singh is over here. Gurumustuk is sitting in his favorite spot at the computer, and Gurujot Singh's behind the camera, but we're going to change positions as we go along so that everyone gets a chance to participate. And I hope that you'll participate too online. So maybe in the comments, you can let us know where you were when you heard the news about Oak Creek and, your feeling and response to it. And we'll start sharing our thoughts and hope that you share yours as well as we go along.
I remember I was actually in New Jersey when Oak Creek happened. We had gone up to New Jersey to celebrate my mother's 70th birthday, and all the Italians were getting together to eat and celebrate her life. And I wasn't paying attention to the news. It was one of the few days I was kind of disconnected from work and not really listening. And all of a sudden started getting, email messages and Facebook messages. And the thing that was so shocking for me about Oak Creek, we had, here at SikhNet, we were like front and center when 911 happened. So I want to give a little historical context to all this. So I was working at SikhNet, all those years ago when 911 happened. And Gurumustuk and I were, this was before a lot of the organizations, the Sikh organizations that exist today were even around. And we were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And within, a very short time, Gurumustuk was, putting up different images and, because we all knew that in the aftermath of 911, it was going to be really important for Sikhs to explain what their identity was about. And Balbir Singh Sodhi was connected with the Sikh Dharma Gurdwara in Phoenix, Arizona. And when he was shot and killed, he was the very first hate crime victim after 911. And we flew out to Phoenix. We were there to support the family. We were there to help manage the press. And what we saw in Phoenix after 911 was this enormous outpouring of love and support from the community. Not the Sikh community, but the whole community. There was a whole memorial to Balbir Singh in front of his gas station, candles and notes and cards and teddy bears and balloons, and everyone outraged that this man had gotten shot, and people saying, this is not what American values are, we're all one, we stand with Balbir Singh. There was a huge memorial event that happened for him in the convention that the governor came to speak at. The outrage about that first hate crime and the affirmation of the American values that we're all one was huge. But after that happened, the war on terror started to become kind of a normal thing. And over time, attacks against Sikhs became a little bit like blasé, like, okay, well, there's another Sikh who got hit, there's another Sikh who got killed. The initial outpouring, the national coverage, the press, everything that happened with Balbir Singh Sodhi as the first hate crime victim, and the American response of outrage started to get less and less and less and less and less and less. Then when Oak Creek happened, the violence had gone up to a whole other level. This wasn't now one Sikh being beat up in the street or shot in a cab, which, was becoming embarrassingly and horribly the norm. It was about a man actually seeking out a Sikh Gurdwara and opening fire on unarmed and innocent men, women, and children. And that was another event that we saw that created a huge outcry in the American public. So there was national press coverage about it. There were people who, came to visit the Gurdwara there. There was an outcry, again, an affirmation of the statement of values. This is not who we are as Americans. We don't condone this kind of behavior. But it took, between Balbir Singh Sodhi and Oak Creek, it took from one man being shot to an entire Gurdwara being attacked. And that's what I saw and remember the most, is that, once again the Sikhs were in the national eye of the United States, and people standing up saying, we're Sikhs too, no matter what they looked like. It was that affirmation of American values and unity. But it took that kind of an event to re-invoke what had happened when the first Sikh, Balbir Singh, got shot. And that was one of my key memories about that event. Good joke.
When I think about the Sikh plight in the Western world, I have an idea of what it's like in the United States, and it's probably similar in Canada and the UK. But United States, I dare say, is probably particularly more ignorant, more fearful than other Western countries. So, we get the looks and we get the names and all that kind of stuff, and once in a while, a Sikh gets shot or beat up, and what it makes me think of is Deg Deg Fateh. And I think that's a statement that we really need to take seriously these days to help ourselves. Deg, langar, like let's go serve langar outside of the Gurdwara. There's people in England, I think the Basics of Sikhi, they started an initiative called Langar Week. Like, I think everyone should be doing that kind of thing. We should be doing outreach, contacting the city councils, getting involved in politics, getting to know your neighbors, doing any kind of outreach. Join the Rotary Club. Whenever I've gone out and served langar to people, it's been what I feel like is creating relationships and shifting opinions and emotions towards us, and creating a positive image for us on a person-to-person basis. And there's no amount of PR or commercials or anything like that can replace that one-to-one going out there and doing seva. And I know a lot of Sikhs are doing that kind of thing. I'm just encouraging even more of that. But that's only one part of the Deg Deg Fateh. The other part is Teg, the sword. And this is another thing that I feel like, if someone were to come into a Gurdwara to shoot at Sikhs, we should be able to physically defend ourselves. We should be trained. We carry a sharp blade on us all the time, and it's not just a symbol. It's also an actual weapon that we should be ready to use. We should be ready to fight and to die to protect ourselves and to protect others. It's not just a slogan that we are warriors. Like, we should actually be warriors. We should be ready to fight. And dare I say, also in this country, in England, for example, firearms are illegal. But that's another aspect, that if we were trained and responsible to carry firearms, so next time there's a mass shooting, there's citizens there who can shoot back. So I'm a fan of self-defense, because, and I think about that all the time. Wherever I go, if you have a weapon and if you have that mentality, you have less nervousness. You feel in control of the situation. You feel more calm. And I'm not concerned about, a lot of people argue that if you're if you have weapons, that you're going to lose control and you're going to get lost in your anger and you're going to do something wrong. And I really think that's almost ludicrous to say in a Sikh context, because our whole lives, our whole lifestyle is made around us being peaceful and being calm and having peace of mind, doing Shabad Guru. You have to be a saint as well. I'm not saying just be a warrior. So once you're involved in Gurbani, you're involved in the Guru, then I don't think that's going to be a concern. I think you're going to spontaneously, you're going to have the ros, the indignation, the fire to fight for righteousness and not out of fear or hate.
You know, you raised a really deep topic, Joe, which is the consciousness behind everything that we do. And to me, it's the same consciousness behind Dig and Tig. And that consciousness is who we are. And the thing that struck me most deeply about Oak Creek was how the Sangat there responded. There was grieving, but there was incredible compassion and kindness that got evidenced by the Sangat. So rather than getting into rancor and anger and responding in that way, they responded with open doors, open hearts, and serving langar. So the deeper question is, how do we live as Sikhs? What's our consciousness as Sikhs? And we, for the 20th anniversary of SikhNet, we made these little wristbands, and they say Sarvat Bala on them. And as Sikhs, we don't just pray for ourselves. Our prayer is that everyone be blessed, and that we wish well to everyone, and that everyone be elevated. So, you kind of ask yourself, I know I did, what do you do when someone hates on you? And because how do you respond? Do you start by pulling out your kirpan? I remember when I lived in the Bible Belt in Ohio, in the U.S. This was back in the 80s, and a pickup truck full of people drove by me on the street, and they pointed and laughed and yelled, "Hey, Ayatollah, go back to Iran," and threw empty beer cans at me. And I felt that moment of anger inside me, and then I recognized that. And instead what I did was I raised my hands like this, and I smiled at them, and I said, "God bless you." And in that moment, what happened was I wasn't in their movie anymore. In their movie, they provoked me, and I reacted to their provocation. But the ability to catch in that moment and take control of that moment and say, that's not who I am. I'm not going to respond the way they treated me. I'm going to respond in a different frequency. That's a priceless thing. The ability to seize the moment and say, I'm not in that movie, and I'm not going to play the part you wrote for me. I'm in this movie, and in this movie, I bless you. Sarbat Abala.
Can I add one thing? This is Gurumustuk. I just wanted to add on to what Guruka said, because what he said was really valuable, and something that I feel that many times, like us as the Sikh community, we're waiting to be offended. We try so hard, and we're waiting, like somebody says something and we get all upset. And oftentimes I've found that in my life, sometimes when when my mind is in a way where I'm already sensitive to something, that anything somebody does, it triggers that. So instead of looking at being a victim of what other people are saying, like Guruka in that example, he was just sharing a way to not be the victim and not be in their thing. That when we stand out and we look this different, you be proud, that you stand out, and this is why we stand out, so that we're always recognizable, and that's a big part of our identity. So I think it's important to just know that what our mindset is will change how we react to things. So if we stay in a positive mindset, and that, maybe those people maybe don't understand, or they don't know us about it, that's, I should smile back or whatever, not react to them, but stay positive. And the second thing was I just wanted to add, like what Gurujot had mentioned about security and being prepared. You know, the simple things that, you know, I know some of the members of our community here had done is, you know, a volunteer group started to then be involved in security. And so there, you know, during Gurdwara, there's certain numbers of people that stand by the doors, that are aware, looking and watching people. So those are simple things, like not everybody has to, you know, may not know how to use weapons and have self-defense and be prepared to do that. But there can certainly be people in your community who can take on that role. So if something does happen, somebody's vigilant and aware, and we can handle it more effectively than if people weren't really ready or paying attention.
And one thing, this is Ong Kaur. So one thing I wanted to talk about, you know, a lot of, you know, some Sikhs reach out to us and say, what can we do? Because this climate of desensitization has continued to grow in the United States, where, you know, Balbir Singh Sodhi, he got shot and killed. There was a national outcry against that hate crime, saying these are not American values. And here we are now, literally 15 years later, and this war on terror has not gone away, and things are much worse on a certain level. There's a whole generation of people who have grown up under the push and pull of, you know, Al Qaeda and now ISIS, and the threat to the United States, and Islamophobia is growing to the point where one of our presidential candidates, there's no way this guy would have ever been nominated, you know, 10 years ago. He's espousing the exact opposite of, anyway, I don't need to get into politics, but, you know, post 9/11, there are things that you can do as a Sikh in the United States to help educate your neighbors that actually help Americans feel sympathy and feel excited and understand the Sikh community better. And, you know, the National Sikh Campaign did a research survey recently talking, you know, trying to figure out what are the key messages that will help people in the United States feel sympathetic towards Sikhs. If they would just know this about Sikhs, then, oh, you know, these are good guys, they're with us. And one of the key messages that SikhNet used after 9/11, and the Sikh Communications Council that no longer exists was, you know, key in helping create this message as well, is this idea of linking the American Revolution with the Sikh, the birth of the Sikh religion. Because, you know, if the American Revolution had started off as a spiritual movement instead of a political movement, that's what the Sikh religion would be, because there's so many things that we share in common. This core set of belief that protects the rights of all people to the pursuit of their own happiness, to practicing their own religion, that men and women are created equal, and that you know, you have the right to earn your living honestly. These values that the gurus taught are actually core values that the founding fathers of the United States believed as well. And when you talk to Americans about that, not like, oh, we're Sikhs and we're a separate religion from Hindus, and we, you know, not that kind of shtick, but rather the, hey, we're like you, U.S. citizens. We're just like the religious, spiritual incarnation of the same values that the Constitution is based on. That's the single most effective message they found in this research. National Sikh Campaign found when they were doing research. It's the single most effective message to help people feel sympathy towards Sikhs and identify with Sikhs. Some other messages that were really key is that the Sikh turban represents American values. That's how you start. Well, what do you wear that thing on your head for? Well, hey, did you know that my turban represents the same values as your flag? Like, don't be afraid to engage the dialogue and bring it into the terms of, you know, bring it into the terms of what Americans are familiar with. We're too comfortable wanting people to come into our world as Sikhs. We have our world, our language, our culture, our history. We have to step out of our world into other people's worlds and say, this is how we're like you. This is how you can feel good about us. You know, the whole thing about Sikhs being immigrants, being part of the American dream, that we've come to this country from other places. You know, I was born in this country, but most of the people, the Sikhs in the United States, have come in. And, you know, they're just like the Italians, the Irish, the Polish, the, the Mexicans, they're Chinese. Like they came here and they worked and they established themselves to take part of the American dream. So talking about all the ways that Sikhs have contributed to American society, and of course the military, the role of Sikhs in the military, that we've served in the armed forces with honor, is also a really important message. So even though there's no one can do something big to change where the culture and the psyche has gone in the last 15 years, every single one of you watching this, if you're armed with these messages, American Revolution and the founding of the Sikh religion, same values. Turban represents the same values as the American flag. We're like any other community. We came to this country, worked hard, and achieved the American dream. And hey, did you know Sikhs serve in the U.S. military? These are talking points that you can discuss with your neighbors, with your teachers, with your coworkers, with the people you're talking to at the grocery store, with the idiot who comes up to you on the street and is trying to make fun of you. You can engage in this dialogue, and the research shows it actually creates really positive feelings towards Sikhs, and people are really glad to have us as neighbors. But if we don't go out and tell people who we are, again, not in our terms, not like, hey, come see our Prachar and our Gurdwara and all these words that are unfamiliar, but in American terms, to American citizens, slowly on the grassroots, those attitudes can shift.
You said the idiot on the street.
Sorry.
And it made me think just that idiot on the street is also my teacher. Sikh means learner. And if we're not learning every day from everything that happens to us and paying attention instead of just reacting to things and, wanting people to hear our opinion and what we have to say. But that idiot on the street is a soul. And the Guru has brought that soul in front of me for a reason. So, I'm not sure I know what an idiot is. I mean, I'm an idiot in some areas too. Somebody may be acting in a way that shows ignorance about something, but then the issue isn't that person. The issue is ignorance and the fear that's inside of them because of that ignorance. So I look at it that every one of these interactions is an opportunity to learn something about myself and to communicate and touch the other person in some way. And that requires being alert in the moment and knowing how to respond. And I agree with Gurujot. If someone is being threatened and there's bodily harm involved, we have to react and defend. But most of the situations we run into are not physical attacks. Most of the situations we run into are just haters hating on us or making misunderstandings or misjudgments about who we are.
I have a funny story about that. I know a guy, I won't name him, but he trimmed his beard, and he used to grow this beautiful beard. And we asked him, like, why did you trim your beard? He said, oh, well, my arm is broken. And I was like, what? How does that make any sense? I don't get it. He said, well, what happened was someone called me Osama, and I went and I punched this guy. He's a strong guy, Sikh guy. He punched the guy's window in, and he started yelling at him and threatening him. The guy ran away, drove away, right? And so he's like this macho dude. And now because he punched in the window, he cut some tendons in his hand. He has this cast on. Now because in his rationale, because he can't beat people up, he can't hold the Sikh savrup of his beard and his turban. So it's like that's the opposite of like, first of all, you're not supposed to beat people up who call you names, and second of all, you're not supposed to drop your savrup because you can't beat people up like it. So I just want to reiterate, I definitely agree, and it's going to be 1 in a million chance where you're actually going to have to defend yourself. I just think that as a whole, the Sikh Panth has fallen out of being a practical warrior. We've really symbolized being a warrior, and we've said, oh, it's a part of our history. It's not part of our present. It's what we do in the boardrooms, not in the actual. We're not actually ready to fight, and that's not something we should be ready. I think we've really fallen out. And when you do martial arts, and when you are ready, and even if you don't need to train, you don't need to be ready. But if you have the spirit of Guru Gobind Singh, it's an attitude that changes. It's a game changer.
Mhm.
Now, another thing though that's really important, and we wrote a couple articles on this, the kind of becoming the voice and all of these messages. We wrote an article about that with National Sikh Campaign. It's on the SikhNet website. Gurumustuk might be able to, I Skyped the links to those articles, Gurumustuk, if you want to add them to the Facebook page. But another really fascinating thing that this research showed is that the average U.S. citizen doesn't know what a Sikh is, has never heard of Guru Nanak, can't really identify a Sikh in a picture. And the perception of our community is that we're very insular. Like, we don't want to go outside of our Sikh communities, neighbors, families, gurdwaras, and intermix with the greater public. But another really, really powerful way to change attitudes on the ground, at the grassroots, is to be known for your service. So to do and organize service programs that allow you not to serve. We're used to doing seva in the Gurdwara. Oh, I'm going to help with, Prakash or Kirtan or cleaning, or like when we think seva, we think what we're doing for our own Gurdwara. But this is a time, when the consciousness of seva has to get way out of the Gurdwara, way out of the Sikh community, because the more Sikhs are visible outside of the Sikh community doing seva, that is a really powerful way to educate people about who Sikhs are. No one forgets you when you serve them. And that can be things like organizing langars for homeless people. It can be just volunteering for Habitat for Humanity. It can be getting involved in your local, local governance, or volunteering, seeing what projects are needed by your greater community and going out and volunteering. And Sikh Coalition is doing something wonderful this year. I think it's next week, August 11th, if I'm not mistaken. They're trying to organize a day of seva in honor of the Oak Creek tragedies and encouraging people to kind of go out and do seva projects in their community. But if you're scared of what's happening in the United States and you want to make a change, it's not just about knowing the key messages. That's one way to do it. But it's about putting yourself on the line, getting your friends together, and going out and finding a way to serve those people who are afraid of you, to serve those people who hate you. And I want to tell a Yogi Ji story if I can.
Feel free.
So this is a story that I've heard that I love about the Sri Singh Sahib Yogi Bhajan. So when the Sikh community first settled here in Espanola, we attracted violence. People didn't want us here. People called us names, diaper head, a lot of things happened. And there's one story about these young kids who kind of did some graffiti on the walls of the kind of the
Tagging.
They did tagging. They did gang tagging right near Yogi Ji's residence, and it was found out who they were. And Yogi Bhajan didn't want them arrested. He said, invite them over here. So these guys were really scared, and they came over to see Yogi Bhajan, and Yogi Bhajan invited them in and fed them food, gave them ice cream, welcomed them very warmly, fed them very warmly, and after they were relaxed and they were well fed, he just talked to them about who we are, what we're about, what we do, just really...
Gave them like $100.
I'm going to get there. And then, just kind of engage them in a conversation, and then at the very end of the visit, gave them $100 each. And then they left. And people were saying, why did you do that? These guys, broke the law, they tagged you, they could have been put in jail. He said, no. He said, they're going to become our best PR in this community. They're going to go tell all their friends who we are and what we did. So this idea of taking the moment of conflict and co-opting that person to actually become your ally is an art. And I even had that conversation with him once, and it was a really powerful conversation. And I asked him, I said, this gets back to the warrior concept. I said, sir, what does it mean to fight? And he said, fight with kindness. And I said, what is there to win? He said, win the goodwill. And that's what we have to do as a Sikh community right now. We have to go out there and we have to fight with kindness and we have to win the goodwill, because this war on terror is not going away anytime soon, and it's only going to get worse, and we've got to be our own defenders, and that is a key way to defend ourselves.
Sat Bachchan ji. Well, I hope you've enjoyed being with us this morning. I looked at the comments going by, and I appreciate the fact that you guys care about this conversation and feel that it's helping. I think that anything that anyone here this morning listening to this broadcast or participating, that if you go out and put these things into action in your life, and then share the changes that happen, and let us know too, because SikhNet's all about good news and goodwill, and we love to tell people's stories. So I just want to encourage anyone who has a story to tell, send it to us at SikhNet so that we can spread the good word and spread the goodwill. Thank you.
I do have another finishing thought.
Good job.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I heard someone told me that there was the situation in California was getting so bad. So many people are getting shot in their, in the gas stations and just on the streets and just getting beaten up and all the assaults and everything. That there's some Sikh couple that was afraid to even go outside. And when I heard that kind of report, it made me really sad to think that, first of all, that we have a situation that makes a citizen of the United States afraid to go outside of their own house for their own physical safety. But another part of that is sad is that there's a Sikh who's afraid. We're supposed to be nirpo and nirver. And I'm not claiming that I'm completely fearless, but just as a reminder to all of us to, if you find yourself, this is a challenging situation, this is a challenging time, and if you find yourself afraid, if you find yourself angry, we got to try not to be either of those things. When it comes to martial arts and self-defense, of course, the whole basis of that is not through anger or vengeance or retaliation. And so the point I'm getting at is that in order to reach this mentality, we have to do more nam. If you're getting involved in these things, meditate more, do more banis. If you're afraid, read Guru Gobind Singh's banis. If you're feeling vengeful, read the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib. Keep taking hukam namas. And that's why SikhNet is here, to help you spiritually. Go online, take a hukam. You can do it on your phone. You can read a Sahaj Path on your phone nowadays. So watch less TV, meditate more, and do more banis. Be in Chardi Kala, and then nothing can touch us. That's it.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks to all of you who've tuned in to watch this broadcast. It's our deepest blessing to be able to do this for the Sangit. Please keep in your prayers the memories of the families in the community at Oak Creek this week, of the Sodhi family, who really have been were the first family that really suffered in these backlash attacks, of all the people in the last 15 years that we know and we don't know who've been victim of hate crimes, for their families. Do a special ardas, do a special prayer for all of them, and let's really join together as a community and get out there, fight with kindness, educate our neighbors, and start to turn the tide in this, let's turn this hate into love.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki
Fateh.
Fateh.